Hello there. If you are looking for some organization for your digital world, specifically your folders on your computer and how to organize and back up your photos, then keep watching because today's video I'm going to cover how I organize my digital life and streamline things so I can easily find things. So stick around. Hello friends and welcome back to Simple Essentials. If you are new here, my name is Emmy and in this channel we talk all about minimalism and more specifically simplifying your life in as many areas as possible. And in the recent series I have been talking about digital decluttering and digital minimalism. So I've done one video on social media minimalism and the other one we talked about emails and passwords and a range of other things. So I'm going to link those two videos down below and up here as well for you to check out if you're interested. But in today's video, we are going to round off the digital minimalism for now by looking at folders on your computers. And I'm talking about documents. And it's a really interesting thing because I find a lot of people when it comes to their photographs, because many of us have loads and loads of photos on our phone and on our computers. And for many of us, they're spread out in different places and we don't actually find whether it's a document or a photo. It's hard to find it. And we also have duplicates and backups and, clutter basically. So I'm going to share with you an exercise that I went through a little while ago myself, and it's been hugely helpful to organize just my world and especially being able to access these documents if, for example, my computer would break down. So being able to access your documents when you need them, whether you are traveling or whether you are at home, is really, really important. So we're going to start with folders on your computer. Okay, so we're going to dive into files and folders. And before I show you the recommended setup that I use to set up my folders and backups, I really just want to highlight a couple of things. Firstly, think about the things that you need to keep on file in paper format and which things are fine in digital format. So depending on your country and your circumstances and your line of work, there might be paper documents that you need to keep on file securely somewhere. For most of us, myself included, I don't have a whole lot of things in paper format. Most of my things are digital these days, which is why I'll share with you what I do in this video. And I think finally as well, think about who you need to regularly share things with. So for example, you might want to share certain documents or make them available to your partner, to your accountant. You might have work-related files if you run your own business or something like that. So just think about that shareability as well. And finally, make sure that you always have an electronic backup, because let's face it, as much as I love my computer, it could break, I could spill coffee on it, all sorts of things can happen to it. So don't put yourself in a position with photos, which we'll talk about later, or files where they go missing just because your computer or your phone breaks down. So I would really recommend that you have a digital backup. I use Google Documents, but you can use whatever you're comfortable with. There is Dropbox, there's a bunch of free ones available. And another thing you can use, of course, is an external hard drive. So like a little actual USB drive of some sort that you can keep your things on. But it is really important in this digital age, and also we spoke about it in the last video, but make sure that you have really robust passwords and security in place, because we are living in a world where people are starting to hack and break into your passwords, etc. So make sure you have really secure passwords and that they are stored in a secure password bank or something like that. But without further ado, let me show you how I organize my files and folders. I'm going to move my head so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we have a sample folder that I've set up for you guys to share today. There are none of my personal documents in here, but this is very much how I set up my email folders. And my email folder naming convention kind of corresponds to how I organize my documents on my computer. So let's dive into this a little bit. So what I say as a principle is go, what would future me thank me for? And usually when you need to find a document, you don't really know where to start. And I also want to say, if you haven't got this in place yet, but you want to put it in place from now onwards, future you is going to thank you for that too. You don't need to go through all the stuff in your past to start doing this right now. But here are some guiding principles that you can use, and I highly recommend that you do this both in your emails and in your files so you can easily find things. But for example, you may need to keep hold of things that are bank related. So for example, with bank statements, whether you need them for tax purposes or other things, go into create them at least by year. Depending how complex your finances are, you could obviously even go down to have monthly ones. But I think for most of us, we get a bank statement every month or so. So even just dividing them up by year can be super, super helpful, because that means that when you're like, oh, I need to find March 2021, I know exactly where to find that. And by the way, like I said, I have set my stuff up as a Google backup. So up here, you'll see this is paused at the moment for this video. But what I do normally is that when that is on, and whenever I save a document onto my computer, it automatically syncs to the cloud as well. So I don't even have to think about it. But again, make sure that your passwords are really secure. So under banking, you can obviously put anything that's relevant for you. You could have several bank accounts. So you could have bank statements, account A, duplicated for account B, etc. Bills is really good to keep as well. So things like, you know, again, I normally divide these up by year. You could have things like electricity bills, gym, phone bills, anything else that you're going to keep on hand there as well. Budget, if you don't already have a budget in place, I would highly recommend that you download my template from a previous video that I did. I will link that video about budgeting and templates below so that you can borrow that template for free if you like to get started with setting up a budget. But I normally always save them as well, because this way you can then go back in future years and go, oh, that month was really tricky, or it can help you make decisions about how to plan your budget for the future. So keep them on file. And you'll see, by the way, just for the purposes of this video, you can see the green tick means that this document has synced to my Google folder. So it means that I don't have to worry about if it's synced or not. Car related things, so you may have more than one vehicle. So for, you know, myself and my partner, we could set up one for the everyday driving car, one for our camper van. And then you can have things like service and repair receipts. So for example, if you ever were to sell a car and you have electronic documents or PDFs or scanned receipts or something like that, you have them all in the one place so you can pass them on to the future owner. Or if you ever needed to find when a certain repair was made, you can go back and find it in here. And you can be very clever as well with the naming convention of files. So you could have, you know, repair of engine this year, this month. And then that way, the moment you see the document that's saved inside this folder, it would be really easy to find that. A key one a lot of people forget about is receipts. So you need to show a receipt if you ever want to exchange something or if you want to keep the warranty. And if you've ever saved a paper receipt in a folder somewhere, you know that that ink gets all smudgy, and sometimes the ink wears off even before the 12-month warranty is done. So take a little photo with your phone, or if you have a scanner, use that, and make sure that you have a copy where you can clearly see the date when you purchased the item and the amount and the receipt number. And that's usually all most providers need to be able to look it up in the system and give you a credit or a new item if you need to claim on the warranty. So that's essentially it when it comes to files and folders. Like I said, backup, always have at least a backup, whether it's electronic or a little hard drive or something like that, that you keep in a secure location away from where your computer is saved. So that means that if your computer ever broke or got stolen, you have a backup of all those important things. And just think about what your future self would be really grateful for you saving. Hello there, I wanted to hop on quickly as I'm about to start editing this video and share something very related to digital minimalism. So what I managed to do the other day, I was just about to sit down and start editing this video, and I spilt a cup of peppermint tea all over my laptop. And as we all know, if this has ever happened to you, it's not the greatest feeling, is it? But I wanted to share this because not only did I have digital backups of everything ready so that, yes, I had to take my computer in and luckily they could repair it. But firstly, I was able to continue to work and access my documents and things like that during the day that it happened on. So I was just able to borrow a laptop from my partner and continue to do my work and stuff like that through my Google Drive and other tools. So having the backup in place meant that I hadn't lost any stuff or any productivity. It was a little bit more hassle to access it through the browser and things, but all the stuff was there because it auto backups to the cloud. So first case in point that it is very worth doing. And secondly, luckily they were able to save my laptop. I'm really happy that it was a couple of $100s to fix it rather than buying a brand new one. But if I had to have, if I would have had to go out and buy a new laptop, I would have been able to quite easily move all my documents and things like that across from the cloud to the new laptop, regardless of the brand I would have gone for. So, case in point, thank your past self. And even if you haven't got all this stuff in place already, start setting it up from now, especially with important folders and documents and things like that. And, you know, think about it this way, whether you, I mean, you might not be running a business or anything like that, but you know, many people are very organized with their work documents and their work computers and things like that, and work might also create backups for you. But think about your own personal documents in a similar way. Like, why should you not have access to them and have that stress-free relief of knowing that you have a backup available? Now, photographs. I absolutely love to travel and I have lots and lots of photos, but you know, I am born in the early 80s and I've lived through the age where we actually used to print out photos and do scrapbooks, and I know some people still do that. But what I did find, especially moving countries, I didn't want to bring big heavy photo albums with me, so I have digitized most of my photos. And if you're anything like me, you probably have a bunch of photos on your phone or from previous phones and things like that. And one thing most of us don't do is that we don't go through and remove old photos that we actually don't want to keep. I like to think of it back in the olden days, you know, when you used to develop photos and sometimes you would even get duplicates of each photo so you could give one away to somebody else. Even if we live in a digital world now, which is fantastic, the great and challenging thing is that we have an overwhelm of photos. And especially, I know a lot of parents out there that have loads and loads of photos of their little ones. And yes, of course, you want to keep them, but think about it this way. Only save the photos that you really want and that represent something nice to you. So for example, what a lot of us do if someone or something happens, like we'll take a photo of that sunset or that child playing or our dog being cute or whatever it is. But we don't only take one photo. We usually take 3, 4, 5 plus photos. And if you look back on it, there will be a few of those photos that are much better than the other ones. So you don't need to have 10 photos of that particular moment to remember how cute your dog was or how beautiful that sunset was. Finally, photos need to be backed up. One of the biggest heartbreaks for a lot of people is that we don't have a clear, clean backup that we can access. So if your phone gets lost or stolen or water damaged or whatever it might be, your computer breaks down or something like that, losing a whole family holiday or a whole year of your kid's life or something like that is so unnecessary. So make sure that you have either a great online setup. So for example, Google Photos I really like and it works really well for me personally. Obviously you pick whatever it is that you want. Also do bear in mind that if you store your photos online, some services like Google Photos will compress the image size. So if you're a professional photographer or you want something better, make sure you actually perhaps have a separate external hard drive or something like that where your photos live separate from your computer, etc., so you can easily access them later. Okay, so we're on to photos now, and we're inside my Google Photos account. And I have a phone where any photo that I take on my phone is connected to my Google Photos account. Now, I'm not a professional photographer, so I don't need super high resolution, but obviously if you are a photographer or videographer, you need to have another place to back your photos up that are higher resolution. Same with your videos. So for example, all the videos that I filmed for the Simple Essentials channel, I put onto an external hard drive as a backup, as well as obviously uploading them to YouTube where you're watching this right now. But the cool thing about Google Photos or anything similar is that it automatically backs up, so I don't even have to think about it. And then I can go into my account here and just basically look through. So for example, here is a photo of some risotto that I made the other night. And as you can see, I took several photos of the same dish because I wanted some photos that I could use for Instagram and other things. So I have several duplicates here, and I think we can all agree that there are a few here that probably don't really, yeah, that one's a little bit too blurry. So let's just move that one to the bin. Now we're getting a close-up of Freya. But just sort of for the purposes of this example, make sure like I don't need 5 photos of the same plate of risotto. And as much as I love my cat, this is her, this is her snuggling up. I am a bit of a crazy cat parent, aren't I? But you can delete anything that, you know, is not the best photo. Just go through and delete them, because in reality, as much as you love your kid or your pet or that beautiful plate of risotto, you don't need 10 photos of the same thing. And it's great to take extra photos, so when you look at them here, like on a bigger screen, you can quite easily see which one is the best. Much like when we did the files and folders thing just recently, it is important as well to categorize your photos, because otherwise you're not really going to be able to find them. Now, Google has a clever thing where you can search up here. So if I wanted to search for risotto, I would probably be able to, or food, I would probably be able to find the photos in my entire library that has photos of food. But what you want to probably try and do is to not just have them in chronological order, but put them under birthday party, March 2021, or I could have a whole folder for Freya, for example, which I don't actually have yet. I should probably create one. But that's essentially it. You know, this is her, by the way, playing with a little gift box the other day. So one thing when it comes to photos is don't keep extra duplicates, because you really don't need that many. And the more photos you have, the less likely you're going to go through them and enjoy them and look at them frequently. So there are obviously things that we keep just because we need to, you know, like a photo of a receipt or something like that. But those enjoyable photos, the party photos, the, you know, seeing your kid grow up or your pet do silly things, keep the best ones. Don't keep everything, because when we keep everything, we're actually often ending up to pay for storage, whether it's on a little hard drive or something else. You end up paying for storage that you don't really need. And if you are like me, sitting through lockdown at the moment, feel free to sit down with your photos. I did this a couple of years ago. I had traveled a lot around Australia when I first came here about 10 years ago, and I traveled with other people, and I basically had an external hard drive with thousands and thousands of photos that I was barely looking at. So what I did is I took my hard drive, I removed all the photos that either weren't, you know, of me, or things that I wanted to remember, or particular, you know, close-ups of things that interested me. So I went through and deleted all the things that weren't relevant to me, and made sure to save the ones that I really wanted to remember. And the great thing about when you've gone through that exercise and created your albums, etc. So for example, I'll move my little head again so you can see it here, for example. So I've got my partner and I recently went on a holiday to Lakes Entrance here in Victoria in between lockdowns. So that has its own folder. So I normally put location and year. That's how I file my photos. I've got one here with receipts. I've got one from our Europe trip. And then I have one per year that is just miscellaneous photos that don't have a particular event. They just are from 2020, etc. Now, I hope this was helpful and inspiring. I must say that as a result of this and going through this exercise, I very easily find my documents on my computer, and I also much more easily look through my photos and remember holidays and smile at the memories of being in a particular place. Because let's face it, when you have too much of anything, it's like when you have too many objects in your house, or when you have too much clutter, you can't see the truly beautiful things. And for me, that's really what simplicity and minimalism is all about. It's about enjoying those little things that make you smile and make you happy. And I find that it's especially important in the year that 2020 was, and 2021 has been for many of us, with lockdowns and challenges and restrictions. So going back through those photos and remembering beautiful times that you've had in the past is extra important, at least for me right now. Is there any other digital minimalist things you'd like me to chat about? Please leave a comment below. I would love to add this to my future filming schedule and give you guys as many tips as I can around having a simple life when it comes to your digital world. All the best, have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.